Oh wait, Dave, before you start, do we even have enough for a quorum?
Okay, so let me call the meeting for the Municipal Building Reuse Committee to order. I'm gonna let a few others in, so we have more than a quorum now, Christina, and I appreciate your concerns. So um, it's 5:32. We'll call it to order. Let me pull up. I am not as organized today, so bear with me. So let me get rid of this. Why can't I do this? All right, so I am gonna go look through the agenda here and see what we got. Um, why is that stop doing this for me? Man, now my computer froze up. Okay, so first up, any public comment from the board? I got Tony's there, but I'll see if there's anybody else.
I have a question, and it's just I don't know if this is the time for it or the end, but I'll just ask now, and if we need to discuss it later, we can. Obviously, given all the budget info coming up from the school, there's going to be a lot of criticism about our committee, and I think the town isn't aware of how much we've, as a whole, put into fixing, band-aiding these buildings for the last 5 years, and how much is coming up in the next whatever 3 to 5 years in the master plans. Is there any way to get that number out there to the people?
Of,
Like
you mean how much time we've done?
not even that, but like how much money they've spent trying to like band-aid the town hall together. So it's like the roof's not painting or the doors or you look at TCP, they've done over the last few years, like all these little projects that they've had to put into the buildings to keep them up and running. Like if we keep pushing this on, that number keeps increasing. And I don't think people are really aware of how much money the town funnels for fixing and keeping these buildings standing as is with no
Chris,
major improvements.
Christina, there really hasn't been that much money spent on these buildings, and I've been involved in reviewing both the Ritter and the Town Hall. Not much on the TC Passios. The only amount of money that was allocated for TC Passios was the $300,000 for the roof, which hasn't been spent. But in terms of Ritter and in terms of Town Hall, the money that we're spending on both of those buildings isn't really something that's going to be a detriment to their longevity. We're basically putting a new roof on Town Hall, which is good. Even if the roof is clearly up for replacement. And then at the Ritter, the only thing we're doing there is once again the roof and some exterior repairs. We haven't spent money on the windows or doors or the handicap ramp, which was appropriated, I think, either in 20 or 21 at the ATMs. So we really haven't spent that much money, and the money that we are spending right now is money that is well spent. It's support keeping both of these two buildings around for a number of years. In fact, that was one of my concerns, is that if we didn't move forward with this project, would we be doing severe damage to both Ritter and Town Hall? Fortunately, because both of those buildings are going to have roof repairs and roof replacement, we're actually in pretty good condition. And the windows at Ritter, even though they were scheduled to be replaced, they can withstand a few more years. Unfortunately, I think that we're going to miss this project because of a number of reasons that will come up at the ATM. So I think that we haven't spent that much money on these buildings. That's been one of the problems why we have buildings in such state of repair.
So Tony, I think the other side of that is that we have spent quite a bit of money on reviews and documents and things of that sort.
I would agree with that. I think that the TAPE study that was done back in 2018, that kind of gave us the shopping list of things that needed to be done. And that study was the basis for the two repair projects that are currently under contract for both Ritter and Town Hall. We spent an incredible amount of money on the TC Passios project, which I think was really unfortunate because that approach, in my mind, was absolutely positively, not something that was going in the right direction. And the first one was, how can we use all of TC Passios? And then when we realized how expensive that was going to be, it was like, well, let's just make a smaller footprint and build a new building. And that turned out to be pretty expensive as well. I don't disagree, Dave, that we've spent a lot of money on studies and design work. In fact, that is one of the reasons why I begged Michael Ray to stop the process, because of the discussions that the school board had in January, where we had a discussion on the 7th of January, where the select board said, hey, we want to put the PAC into this project. And then on the 8th of January, the school board said, wow, we're not sure this works for us. I think that if we had stopped at that point, we might have been able to create a project that really focuses on what the ultimate mission was for this committee, and that is consolidating town functions.
I don't disagree, but I do believe that there should be, I agree with Christina that there should be some way of promoting to folks all that we have done, that, trying to do Band-Aids right now versus just taking care of something for the long haul more than anything else.
And I think like the numbers, like we've heard from, I forget his official title, but the town building inspector, the town head maintenance guy, where it was like the boiler at TCP is going, we are having issues at this building and that building. And I don't think people are really fully aware of it. I mean, if I wasn't part of this committee, I wouldn't be. So yes, maybe we haven't spent all the money that we should have in the past that was planned, but that doesn't mean we're not going to come up on the future. And there's other moving factors, like you've mentioned, Dave, like how much we've spent on surveys and reviews and how long we've all been invested in this project. And I think none of us take it lightly, and have sometimes been under the charge of other people we haven't been the happiest about, like PAC or ACE, but they got included by the powers that be and has really affected this project in the budget greatly. But it's because the school committee spoke and said we needed it, and it's maybe just the superintendent, but there's a lot of things that have affected this that people I don't think are necessarily always aware of.
No, I think Christina, you make good points. I think it comes into the presentation planning of the annual town meeting, and also a little bit of the discussing updates to the boards and commissions and key stakeholders.
Right. There's going to be a warrant at the town meeting, so we should probably discuss at some point, how do we get this out? Do we wait till the town meeting and do it? Do we have meetings with various committees? That's probably what's going to happen. Do we have additional meetings where we have concerned citizens to educate them and they can ask questions? I don't know, but yeah, there's probably a myriad of things we can do to make this as transparent as possible, so that nobody at the town meeting can go like, this is the first I've heard of it. I mean, we've been as open as you can. Chairman Jeffries has mentioned a number of times, this is the only committee that you can actually participate in while it's going on. You can actually, because we're doing this on Zoom, and I see a bunch of people here who aren't committee members, but will probably make comments, which is fantastic. That's exactly what we're looking for. So, but there's a lot of people who only see it when it becomes news, and then they want to know what's going on, and we should have a way for them to get fully up to speed and make good, proper decisions and vote on how they want to vote.
I'll weigh in if my turn, I guess. So I wrote something down here. So basically, regardless of the will of town meeting in May, I feel that we, as this group, have provided a great opportunity to update 2 existing historic buildings for continued modern use, and construct minimal new building space to achieve a third goal of unifying town hall employees into one singular space, plus creating 80+ new parking spaces in the village center district at nearly the same cost to only remodel the TCP, which would have done nothing for town hall or the Ritter building. I want to thank and commend each and every member of this group. We have done we've succeeded our most recent charge. Could this be a better plan? Of course, building reuse has been a thing for over 15 years now in town. In that time, we have spent nearly $1 million in studies and proposals, presented multiple options to the voters, torn down a huge multi-story building that was in far better shape than the current Brooks House, and we are still left with Brooks and TCP. If this plan is rejected, it will be back to square one minus. Have spent over $1 million in 15 years and lost one historical building. This is a lot of history. I'm sorry. This is a lot of history that a lot of people aren't aware of. And we've taken breaks and we've taken back seat to fire and police and schools and other major emergencies that come up on a regular basis. So the funding is flexible, but the bottom line is we've let all our schools and buildings go to waste and not maintain them. And they do cost us on an annual basis. I believe it's over $200,000 a year just to maintain TC Passios. And what do we do with it? We store records. We have PAC, we have school things in there. Now we've got a new space in the new design that the schools needed, but now they can be at the Turkey Hill. So this is a difficult process, and I commend everybody for sticking through it, and the will of the voters will preside. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Matt.
I'd be muted.
Yeah, appreciate the thoughts and appreciate the comments and do agree. So let me move on a little bit here because I gotta leave about 5 minutes to 7 for another before 7 for another meeting. So APDC representative Tony, since you got a few minutes here, any comments that we haven't got?
Can you hear me?
We can hear you, sir.
Just a moment. The one thing that I want to say is that it is great to see that what we had been saying about both Town Hall and Ritter is that they can be renovated and that they can be fixed up. And when you look at the architectural report and engineer's report for both of those two old buildings, somehow, some way, contrary to what was spoken back when I think the first town meeting I attended, where people were talking about how bad the town meeting was, or how town hall was going to fall apart, that both of those buildings can be salvaged and used for much less cost than what the new town hall addition is going to run. I mean, I think that my big concern here is that we're going to spend a lot of money on creating new square footage, where I don't think we have to do that. I don't think we have to create nearly as much new square footage in the town hall addition than what's been proposed. When you look at both the cost of $269 for renovating town hall, and you look at the cost of $362 per square foot for Ritter, and then you look at almost a $500 cost to build new square footage, we should do everything we can to use the space that we currently have. And I don't understand why. I think I understand it, but I don't want to say precisely. I think that the schools going to Turkey Hill is absolutely positively a wise thing to do. And if they're going to be there when this project is finished, then we will have created a whole bunch of square footage that wasn't necessary. But from an APDC perspective, we have been saying for a long time that reusing old buildings is a good deal for the town. And the numbers that we got from the cost estimate show that to be the case.
All right. Thank you, Tony. Appreciate that. Okay. I'm going to move on for any public comment from the public. Please either unmute, raise your hand, or something interesting.
Dave, I can't hear you.
Oh, can you hear me now at all?
Just
I
barely.
could hear you before. You asked for
Yeah, you're
Okay.
fine,
Comment.
Dave. So
Okay,
and
now I got you. It's on my end. It's a problem on my end. I got it
All
fixed.
right, all right. I like that operator error a lot better than my end. Okay, all right. So, okay, let me move on. So the next thing on our agenda was to discuss the Brooks House. Michael Ray talked about getting me a cost estimate or something like that. I haven't seen it this morning. Let me check my email today. I haven't seen it, but let me check my emails again to see if he sent something since we started. I don't have anything, so I'd like to be able to, if it's okay with the committee, I'd like to be able to table that a little bit because I wasn't involved in the earlier discussions and I don't know what we have to discuss right now other than the financial information about redoing Brooks House.
yeah, my understanding was that the select board had asked us to take on something that was brought up at the last town meeting. I think it was a special town meeting where we would attempt to rent the Brooks House and in a way that would take off the burden of maintaining it and maybe generate some revenue for the town, or at least reduce expenses. That was kind of, and the select board asked us if we could take on that function. And as of now, we really haven't done anything but just say that, and we haven't done anything else. I don't know if anybody else. I missed a couple of meetings. We might have done more than that, but that's all I remember.
I would agree with Mr. Gray. I don't think we have much to work on. There's no direction at this point.
It's
All right,
one of
that being said,
it's
that
one of the
being said-
reasons why I didn't want this committee to take that task on. I think that it was more of oh well, we'll take it to the Lunenburg Municipal Building Design Committee by the chair versus the select board saying, because when I talked to Carter after the warrant passed in November, it was Carter's plan that he would go ahead and do the work that was associated with the select board or the warrant that got approved in November. And then that got waylaid. And here we are, postponing a decision on it again. So it wasn't just to lease. There was also, we wanted the select board to explore selling the property. It was not just to lease it, but to sell it as well. But the whole idea is to create some commercial development in the architectural preservation / village district. It wasn't just to lease it. It was to look at all the different options.
okay. So I appreciate the input there, but I don't think this is, it's the appropriate time for us to discuss. Next moment for us was TC Passios. Is there a path ahead for TC Passios that we need to discuss?
Thought the painful is we were abandoning that building because the school might use it. And that's why it was left out of all of our plans, was because it might be a future school site. So I don't know what has changed to put that back on our plate, but I would just stay away from it. We don't need another building to add to the confusion, in my opinion.
Plus, it's another 200 grand a year that doesn't have to come out of the school budget.
My concern would be, this is Brian, my concern would be that it's being occupied for voting. It's you got the gymnasium used for after school activities and camps and clubs, the rec center, adult volleyball. So there is usage in pickleball. And then also the food pantry too is being used. So I think the big question is, does part of it stay up? Do we tear down part of it? Do we come up with a recommendation? Do we tear down the whole thing?
Is
My
it?
re-
Go ahead,
I was going to
sorry.
say at the finance committee on Thursday, or it was Tuesday. I don't remember if it was Tuesday or Thursday. The DPW, the facilities person said that the plan was to close down the the two wings, I guess, and to set it up so that the rest of that, the kitchen area, the gym, and other certain areas would be usable. Also, when they talked about the money that was going to be used for the roof, that was going to be basically in the wings area, they said they weren't going to do that, but they could use the money to repair the roofs over the areas that they will be using. The town manager kind of supported that, but I don't remember off the top of my head of where that is in the budget, or if that's just a plan and hasn't reached the financial budget stage.
Okay.
I do know I can add too that the school central offices is planning to leave by, I want to say, like the summer. Sometime during the summer they will be out of that building. So I think that is the plan, as Mr.
Yeah.
Gray.
It's
Yeah, that's
July
what-
15th. ELC is gonna be out because I know my kids go there. They're going somewhere else. The after school and before school is being moved. And hasn't some of the school offices, like the superintendent, already moved out of the building?
I'm not sure if they've
And
already,
she's-
they were waiting to the end of the, when it's quieter.
Yeah. But I mean, we also look at that building, and we've brought it up before. You can't drink the water there. The roof leaks all over. So and this was brought up before, like what's gonna happen when we move everything to town hall and the town pantry got closed? And it was like, well, we didn't have space for them. So, and we were planning on leaving that building completely. So I mean, this changes I don't want to say it changes the plans going forward, but it kind of does in a way, because we're saying we're going to put all this money to move everything out of these 3 buildings, condense them into 2, and that's not really the case if we're still going to have this 3rd building standing without answers, and like an open door of maybe we're going to keep it running now without anyone paying rent in it. And I think we just need to decide one way or another sooner rather than later.
Oh, I guess the question is that some of those, the things that are going on in the gymnasium, the food pantry, other areas like that, are there other places for them? And at this juncture, is there free time at the other gyms that they could be using or anything like that? So I don't want to really look at it as we don't want to put a detriment to Parks and Recreation or the food pantry or anybody else who's presently using town hall just because the schools kind of moved out.
My understanding is that there is a need for gymnasium space. There's a shortage of that in the town. I remember they were even talking about maybe we could do something with renting the old Twin Baptist gym there. So that seems to be an issue. My understanding is that our job was to look at everything, but we had this first thing that we're talking about today, the town hall and Ritter, was phase 1. Now, I don't know if we're going to be asked to do phase 2, phase 3, but maybe the Ritter was kind of put off until we figured out what to do with these first 2 buildings. And we're at a point now where the Ritter is, the TC Passios, at least in the wings, are in such bad shape that they're no longer usable. So that is a problem, but it is also, it may make the decision for us that the only financial alternative is to tear down at least the wings.
My concern too is what is the financial feasibility to actually keep the pantry there running? How much is that going to cost to have the pantry in that building? And I don't think the rec is going to be bringing in a lot of money on the gym, and it is not in the best shape either. I don't know. I have concerns about keeping the building up.
So I guess the question is more for the town meeting presentation. Should we have something to talk about when it comes to Brooks and Passios for the town meeting presentation? or is this something that we're being thrown on us in, 2 months, a month and a half before town meeting, 2 months before town meeting, and really, the idea of doing a deep dive discussion, it's not enough time, or a deep dive investigation is not enough time.
My concern is people are going to ask about them.
Okay,
You
I
know,
have a thought.
go ahead, Greg. Go ahead.
I'll be concise. I think we need to have an answer on TCP. I don't necessarily think we need to have an answer on Brooks House. And I think that this option that we've been exploring was presented initially as if you remember, a hybrid option, a phased hybrid option, that the last phase of which was to deal with the TCP building. And to be quite honest with you, I'd have to read through that again to see what we actually said. I think it involved community center and keeping the kitchen and the gym at least, but probably taking down a good chunk of the building. So we don't necessarily have to have, we have to have an answer to that question, but we don't necessarily have to have a, detailed, point by point presentation, but I think we have to have an answer for it. But I don't think the Brooks House was really ever, I agree with Tony. I don't think the Brooks House was really ever, I'm not saying we shouldn't talk about it, but I just don't think that it factors into this discussion. Because we're not really
Technically-
using the,
Agree.
Technically, Greg, the warrant that was approved at the town meeting said that the select board would have a recommendation at ATM. So, and going back to my comments before, is that there could be a warrant had we jumped on this in December versus jumping on it in March. I do agree
mean
that
for
time is
Brook-
short now.
you mean for Brooks House?
Yeah, Brooks,
Yeah.
the warrant specifically, what that was approved said that the select board would come back with a recommendation for the Brooks House at ATM. What we've been talking about is one of the reasons why I'm going to get off the phone, because I'm going to go participate in the master plan steering committee process, is that these things are all related, but they've never really been managed, as a sequence of events. And Carter said, quite accurately, he says the town needed a facilities plan and it didn't have one. He goes, and we just keep reacting to a crisis here and a crisis there. I think that's been one of the biggest problems we have. And I would agree, Greg, that when we go to this meeting in May, if we don't have something that says this is how we see, TC Passios going forward, once again, it's going to undermine the validity and the chance for approval for what's being proposed and what we've been discussing for the last 3 or 4 months intensely. So I think that you're right on the money. You got to have something for the folks in May about TC Passios. And Tom Gray, what you said is also correct. When we, a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, when we said, hey, here's the hybrid plan, and the first phase is Ritter and Town Hall, you're absolutely correct. But because I think that was done without a plan in mind, we're where we are today. Hey, I'm going to jump off. You guys can talk about me later. I want to go to this master plan steering committee, Dave. Thank you.
All right. So guys, let me do this right now. Just can I do a straw poll of us, just like, well, I don't know what you call it, but just your opinions, just outline your opinions of what you think for Passios, what should be done with Passios. And I'm going to go ahead, Matthew.
All right, so my understanding was that this phased multi-building thing included TC Passios as a layover station for when people are taken out of town hall to renovate it, for people taken out of Ritter to renovate it. We're not going to be able to just snap our fingers and all of a sudden have 2 renovated buildings and a full town hall for everybody to move into. My understanding was that we were going to utilize the existing space with the $300 patch on the roof and make everybody comfortable for a short period of construction time, so that we still maintained a functional town hall. My idea, my understanding of what we were proposing is that was going to be the waylay station until we reached the end goal of 3 of two renovated buildings with one annex. But
Okay,
that's
but
my recollection.
all right, no, Matthew, I appreciate that. My question then for you is then, after that is done, your thoughts on Passios?
Well, I think that was like the phase two. We had three portions of phase one, right? Renovate town hall, renovate Ritter, build an annex. That accomplished his two historic renovations and a combined town hall and 80 new parking spaces in the center. So that was a win, and it's shorter money than only doing the TC Passios. Either way you looked at it, I think that's how we present it. And then the Brooks House just got thrown in our lap again, which is kind of silly. But I agree with Tony. It's not in our scope at this point, and I think that was how we described TC Passios, and that would be a secondary phase to renovating two buildings and having a combined town hall. That was what I thought we were saying, proposing.
Okay, all right, appreciate that. Okay, Christina, your thoughts?
So my question goes back to what, I guess I need Brian to go first on what's the school's plan with TCP? Because I thought they wanted to use that as a survey for a future site of a school. Is that still on the table or is that had removed now?
That is an option. I know some people in town are interested, but the school has not said what site there are multiple sites that could be possible for a new Turkey Hill. And also Turkey Hill could be renovated, so it's still up in the air.
So I would use that as our cover right now. For me, I don't see a future of it after it's used for housing because we brought it up before. We can only change so much of it before we hit different, laws on change and we get in trouble and have to put in certain codes and regulation and bring it up to current standards, which I don't think anyone really has the appetite for, to keep it just as a gym and a food pantry and pay to have all these new up-to-date fees for it.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate that, Christina. All right, Tom, your thoughts?
Well, first, we have to see what happens with the Ritter and Town Hall. If that passes, then okay, then that's the reality that we live in. If it doesn't, then that's another reality. So, assuming that it passes, just as an example, the question will be is what? Okay, so now we have a new town hall and a renovated meeting center. What do we do with TCP? I think we would have to discuss that. Talk to the school committee. Do they? Hopefully at some point they'll get an idea of what the cost would be for Turkey Hill to renovate it, and if that's a reasonable cost, whatever reasonable means, that's okay. That would tell us one thing. If they say nope, it's going to cost $80 million and we can build a new one for far cheaper than that, okay, then that's another thing, another reality that we'll have to deal with. So I don't think we know yet what we're going to do. My gut feeling tells me that TCP probably will be torn down at some point completely, and either replaced with a new school building, or just fallow land until we have a use for it later on.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Brian?
Thanks. I would agree with what Greg Roy had stated, that I feel like the facility director as well is on the same page of let's get rid of the back end of the building and the side of the building, keep the gym, the cafeteria for now. And you're going to keep that going. And I think then you got to figure out what Turkey Hill is going to go and whether we're going to renovate Turkey Hill or maybe it's a new build. And if that new build ends up being where the TCP is, there's been discussion of whether that Turkey Hill school becomes office buildings or a community center. And maybe there's a quick switch of the pantry goes to the Turkey Hill and then the new Turkey Hill might be on TCP. But I think it makes sense for us to keep the same plan, that we're going to get rid of the back end of the buildings, just like the town wants, the facility director wants, get rid of the asbestos and all that stuff, and then keep for now the cafeteria and the gym.
Greg, don't wanna,
Yeah, I think we should work the plan as we presented it whenever it was, 18 months ago, when we developed the hybrid plan that became the plan. And one of the things that I've said all along when we were talking about that plan, that the plan as it is now, again, we've been focusing a lot on town hall and the Ritter building and the addition or annex, but TCP is part of the plan to become, I think we said that it would become community space. Like I said before, I think we're keying in on keeping the gym and keeping the cafeteria so that it could be, because those spaces are used, well, at least the gym is used. But the other thing that I'll add to the discussion is that the advantage I thought during when we're formulating this plan was one of the strong advantages was we could pivot because there's things, as we've been talking about, that we do not know the answers to, and go figure. Now, 18 months after we first started talking about this option, we still don't know the answers, such as what we're going to have to do with an upgraded Turkey Hill school, where that's going to go, how that's going to be done. So the advantage is we can get through phases 1A through C. We can renovate town hall, we can renovate the Ritter, we can put the annex on, and then we can before we launch into the last phase, which is the TCP building, we can assess where we're at the time, and we can pivot to a different approach for that building. So it's a flexible plan. I mean, it has advantages to that, but at least but this plan, the overall thing, accomplishes the tasks, the main task that we set out to do. I don't know when it was. I think I started on this committee in it was before COVID. So we can at least accomplish that. So that's what I think. I think we should work the plan. I think.
all right. So, no, I appreciate that, Greg. So let me just, if I could, my feeling on the summary of what I understood is that when the question comes up about Passios, is that the intent is to use it during the renovation process, to be able to utilize Passios during the renovation process to make sure that town functions and other functions are not disrupted, with as little disruption as possible. And then at the end of that period, when there is a new town hall and a new meeting facility, then we'd be looking at Passios and what's the best use for it.
So I would jump in that we did have the facilities director come in and say that most of the building is not usable and that it's not recommended to use it as the transition space anymore. So I think that plan is not.
Yeah, I think you could file that under. It seemed like a good idea at the time, but I don't think, at least for me personally, no one was under the impression that the building was in good shape, but I don't think that we thought it was imminently going to cave in on itself, which that's what I'm being led to believe
I think the new
is the case now.
The new town hall first. That way they can transition into it. And then
Right. How they decide to do the construction of TCP of the Ritter and the town hall, and how they phase those in will affect how people get moved and so on, and where things are available. It sounds like, from what I understand, is that maybe it's going to be the mobile office space. You bring it in and put it in for a year, and we rent it out, and that's what we do. And it's part of the cost of doing the construction.
I was under the impression that they were going to build the new Ritter.
Yeah,
Amended.
I
I
don't
think
think
it's
we've gone that far.
I think
yeah.
it's a strong advance. Sorry to interrupt, Tom.
Yep, go ahead.
I think it's a strong advantage to the plan. that the architect prepared for us. The new building can house everything that we have currently in Ritter and Town Hall. And unless I'm missing something,
No.
but by and large,
The last
we could
part.
fit everything in there.
The last
Say it
part,
again.
the schools will go in after the Ritter.
And then the schools will go in after, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, they're, by the way, they're connected by a small. It's by and large a separate building that's connected by a hallway. So I'm no architect or general contractor, but I think there's a way we can separate phase that construction. I think it's an advantage of the plan.
You
Can
might
I-
be right, yeah.
Sorry to interject, but did we, and I know I haven't had like the most perfect attendance and I've had to leave a few times. Did the town building director ever get back to us? If we knock down wings like you proposed, do we trigger the upgrades to code? Because we would be changing more than like 60%. And I know that was like a big thing about keeping the gym in the pantry.
I don't know that we've vetted that, Christina, yet. We talked to, we obviously asked that question back when we were working on that building. We talked to the building inspector at the time, building commissioner. The building commissioner is now new. And I don't know that we ever, someone else could.
My thought was it would be triggered if we're doing renovations to the building, but this is really talking about tearing down wings.
Yeah,
I think we're okay.
Well,
it could be a,
if I
yeah.
can just mention here, the percentage of the building was what triggered the different levels, right?
Yeah.
So the more you leave standing
Yeah.
gives you a larger percentage that you can work on without triggering those levels. And then once you're done fixing the ones that you want to keep, then you can demo the
Yeah.
existing bad stuff, and you have to take the crap out of it anyway.
I would agree.
Yeah.
with Allison, I remember that too. Yeah, let's do the renovation
I
first.
think
Wasn't there
that's
that
it.
underlying factor of there's asbestos throughout the whole building, so knocking stuff down will just, if we did that, it might get into the areas we just fixed.
Well, that's why the facilities director said he wanted to remediate. He wanted to close off those wings and remediate first.
And did we, and again, this, I know it was brought up. I don't know if we ever got answers, so that's why I'm asking, because I can't remember. The heating system is in one of the wings, so it would have to get moved, but the water was in the main part, so it was okay, or it's vice versa. But we would have to rebuild one of those systems, whether it was the heating or the water entering the building. But the water entering the building should be null and void because you can't even drink it.
The heating is not in the wings that I think he was talking about. It's across the hall from the pantry.
But
Yeah,
that's
it's
on
closest
its,
to the fields, I think.
but
right.
that's on its way out anyways, right? From what he said, he was surprised it would make it through the winter.
Oh, the boilers. Yeah, I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be.
So these are, I'm just afraid because like obviously we know these things, they've been said. So when we say, oh, and we're gonna do this for TCP and they want a price, like it's gonna be a pretty big price. Like this isn't gonna be a cheap little, we'll knock down 2 wings and the building's good. Like this is gonna be a brand new building by the time we're done with it. They'll have the bones, but everything else is gonna almost be gutted and brand new.
Yep.
Okay, understand well. So, okay, so I think that's what my goal there, guys, was to get a formula to understand, more of when it comes time for time, ATM, the old town, the town meeting, that we, that we understand what our position is when it comes to Passios and the Brooks house. Because as we talked about, people will bring it up and we need to be able to respond. All right,
Yeah, I think it needs to be in the slide deck.
correct. Correct.
That's how important it is.
Okay. All right. Which gets me up there. We had, we talked, so I got the third thing on here, discuss Ritter Town Hall, a meeting House warrant article, confirm financial request, review presentation. I don't have the presentation, so I don't really feel like I can review the presentation, but the financial request was talked about. Brian, you had it in the minutes of the two different, the high and the low that we had there. where am I here? 2429. So I think we had financial request was somewhere, but with a high range estimate of, somewhere around 17 million, between 17 million and 22 million. So for the town article, for the town warrant article, do we have to have a dollar? We need to have a dollar figure on this thing, correct? And I'm assuming that we would have to probably put the larger dollar figure, the 22 million up there.
I think the question was, we talked last time about adding in, I think, 2 or 4 charging stations into the base bid. So there's an alternate there for like, I don't know how many it was.
Like 280. It's in the minutes, but yeah, it was around in the 200s.
Yeah, and that was for a ton of charging. That was for like
Yeah.
20 or something.
Yeah, 281 for 21 units. And we were
Yeah.
talking about either doing 2 or 3. So
Yeah,
just
2. Matt Allison
two,
said 2.
two,
Yeah.
right? I remember 2. Got 2.
So I think that's true. I think we should include that, but it should be fairly minor. I don't know if it's linear or not. If we do, it's probably not linear. Actually, it's probably I don't know. The base bid has all the infrastructure, which is like conduits and things, but it doesn't include the chargers or the wire or the cost to install them. So I don't know if 2 is going to cost a percentage of, I can't remember how many we had in the alternate.
21.
21. So I don't know if it's 2 divided by 21 times the cost, or if it's more than that. It's probably more than that, I'm guessing. So we probably need some input from the architects team.
So I'll tell you now that there is quite a bit of grant funding right now available for 2 or 4, not for 21, but for
Right.
2 or 4, there would be grant funding available.
That's
for that.
awesome. Yeah.
And then,
So-
and basically the chargers, I think it's the chargers were free if you put the infrastructure in.
We're
You
putting,
wire it, but then you get the
Yeah,
you wire it and you put the concrete bases in and all that, and then you just
correct.
that'll look good. Put that in the presentation.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
So I have a meeting with Unitil later on. I'll ask again about that.
in my opinion, we used the high number. It was like 22 million and change. And then maybe that needs to be bumped up by $50,000 or something to get wired for. I don't know. We'll have to talk to the architect on what we need for chargers, but I think that's what you do. And then you work through the design process to try to get it, to try to refine things. I mean, that's the other thing. We haven't done any design. We haven't done any, we're still at like not even design development. Yeah. We got a lot more architectural process to go here. So, there's value engineering that can be done. There's all kinds of things that can be done that hasn't been done yet, so you can't really do it until you get into the more detailed design phase when they're picking out finishes and fixtures and this kind of thing, where you can look at things. You can say, okay, can we save some money here? Can we, that kind of thing. So I think you got to go with the higher number, in my opinion.
Okay. All right. I agree. I mean, we have to throw in the number. I mean, because you can't have the shock afterwards. You can't.
Well, and to me, it's got to be in the book. Like the last couple of times we've done this, we told them what it was on the town meeting floor. I just think that's really bad form. We should put it in the book.
Yeah, I think if it came out that we used the low number, people are going to see it that we use the low number.
Yeah. But I think we should publish the thing in the warrant booklet if we could do it. I just don't think in the past we've done like a placeholder, haven't had the value, and then we've kind of set it on the town meeting floor basically, and I just don't think that's a good idea.
All right. So if I'm looking at Mr. Gray, your proposal is that we put that cost estimate information right in the warrant.
Well, obviously the town, as far as the town's folks need to know what how much is this gonna cost? Which, and this will be the, not to exceed kind of, warrant, I'm assuming. And that needs to be the high number. Beyond that, I think we've been pretty transparent about the numbers. I don't know if
It's on the website.
yeah, it's on the website, so it's not like we're hiding anything. I don't know if it's the best place to go through the, whether or not it makes sense to have 10 or 20 chargers or 5. I don't think town meeting is the spot for that.
No, I don't think I think we make sure we're covered for two chargers, and
Right,
we're not going to talk about it specifically in the,
right, and there's all sorts of contingencies built into this number.
Yeah.
And obviously, there's some, I guess he put in, I remember they put in an inflation factor, and if these numbers, and again, you don't know until you start doing the bidding, until, and when all the work is done, whether or not all your assumptions are valid. And when you do the bidding, do they come in higher or lower? And if they come in higher, then okay, then we got to start going back and looking at things that we have to cut. And if they start coming in lower, then we can go, oh, maybe we can do the, X, Y, and Z, or maybe we can upgrade this when we were trying to save a buck here or there where we don't really need to. It's going to be value added. So, those are things that you do during an additional process, but you got to get the money, set aside and approved before you can do any of that.
All right, so it sounds like we want to put for the warrant, for the financial request, we're gonna want to put the 22 million or 22.3 is the question.
Well, if I may here, I'm looking at, all right, so the last file that we received from Michael Ray about the response from the architect, I'm looking at Appendix C, total project cost estimate. We got 21,967 million for the total project cost with 3 bid alts, right? And so basically 22 million would cover the projected total cost without any bid alts. However, this is going to be a debt exclusion override rather than a typical override, right? So I think we can word it up to a certain amount, because we're going to have to hire consultants to come up with construction documents, and they're going to have their own estimators, I believe, and they'll give us a total cost. And if we get appropriation for $100 less than it actually costs, we won't be able to do anything, I think. So if we go up to, and then we start spending money on construction cost documents and whatnot, and we went too tight, then we might lose the whole project just because of that. And then we've also got a bid alt for 1.8 million, and another one for 100,000, another one for almost 300,000. So with an extra wiggle room of 300,000, that would almost cover 2 bid alts. And I'm not saying that that's something that we want to pursue, but that just gives you an idea of when you ask for the money, what that money is going to be able to do. If that makes sense, I think.
yeah, no, if I may, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I agree with Matt. I think we should ask for the 20, I don't have it in front of me, but the high number, 22 million was my recollection. Not add on the bid alternates, don't add 1.8 and 300 and 100, but that if it's a successful article and we have a project, we will go out to bid for those alternates to get prices. Because if the bid comes in at 20 million, I think is what Matt said, if we end up with $2 million extra, we might want to decide to do the bid alternates and we'll have a price. But we shouldn't ask for more money for them, in my opinion.
I agree.
The only thing we should make sure we put in there is 2 chargers, which is a subset of that 280,000 for the 21 chargers. So that should be in the base bid. But it's negligible enough that I think we just asked for the 22 million. I think we're going to find a way to put some chargers in there.
Well, like they grants too.
Yeah, there's grants. But also just to clarify, I believe in the $22 million estimate is the construction document preparation costs. It's the soft costs is in there for the, the architecture fees, the OPM. We have to hire an owner's project manager and all that jazz. I think that's all built into that slot, the difference between the 17 million and the 22 million. The $5 million is contingency and soft costs for that kind of thing, I believe.
You're right. Actually, incidentally, it's 10% and it's the same cost as the alternate one for the canopy.
Ah, yeah, yeah.
It does
So
say,
it is built in there. Yeah.
yeah, it says total project cost with design
Yeah.
team fees. And so that's the total 22.3 cost.
I think what happened, the reason they gave us a range is because I think the project estimator gave a low range on that, and the architect, based on their experience, didn't think that we were carrying enough in something. It was the soft costs or the contingency or something. So that's why they recommended that we went with a higher number.
I think they used the total estimate of construction, then they used a 20% then a 25% upcharge for all the other stuff, contingencies and everything else. And I think that's what they did, because I wrote my little paragraph here, 20%, 25%, and that's what they are. So I think that's what they did. They estimated just that it was be 20 or 25% more.
Yeah, and nothing's to say if the town meeting authorizes 22 million, let's just say it comes in at 18 million. I'm making this up, but this is really what happened with the high school. Okay, we ended up with millions of dollars. We added a few things back in. We did the air conditioning. It's not air conditioning, it's air cooling or whatever. And we did an upgrade, I think, to fields. We put sod down on the fields and things, but we still didn't spend the 72 million. So we ended up borrowing less money than what we had authorized at town meeting. So we were able to do both. So that's like sort of best case scenario. We did a couple of ad alternates, and I'll call it return money but we reduced the amount of borrowing over as compared to what was authorized at town meeting. So that's the idea.
Okay. So I guess the big question for me right now is, are we looking at just saying a round number of 22 million? Are we looking at the 22.3 million, which was the highest range of the estimate? Or,
I'd go
sounds better to people?
verbatim. I'd go verbatim on what the high estimate is. Like I'd quote it.
Yeah, basically with the highest range estimate of 22.3 million, including a
That's what it said.
25% markup for soft cost and an owner's contingency potential scope creep.
Yeah, that's what I would do.
All right.
And I wouldn't round it. I would put exactly what they put in the estimate.
Okay. All right. Any objections on that one? All right. So we'll recommend that the committee is recommending putting in the warrant article a cost of 22.3 million. I will add that I would like to see a little bit of the breakdown of the cost, in the information that people get when they get the warrant. So they have that information beforehand.
So
I
Dave,
know as much as, yeah.
Dave, I just want to correct. Are we going to go 22,301,145?
Oh, is that okay? Okay.
That's what I would do, guys. I would just
No.
don't round it. Just put it in. They told us what it is, and that's what I would do.
That's what I would do too. Makes sense.
$2,301,145.
Okay, thank you, Brian. I
Yeah.
didn't have the exact number sitting in front of me, so, yep, I agree.
Excuse me, can you tell me when that estimate was out? Because I'm looking at this report from Taylor and Burns dated February 24th.
Okay, so that might be a different one. So I'm looking at the email from Michael Ray Jeffries and Robert Taylor, February 3rd.
Okay, so no, the last email I got from Michael Ray, aside from posting for this meeting, was the distribution of the Taylor Burns report. Did you guys all get that? I mean, I had it printed and I've got it right in front of me, but
Yeah, I got it. I just can't. I'm on my iPad tonight.
So Matt, what's the number on that report? What's the high-end number on that report?
well, the high-end number, total project cost, which includes a 20% soft cost, So they say in total estimated construction cost of 18,306. And they're saying total project cost, which has got a 20% soft cost of 21,967. But what I would suggest for this, what you're talking about is just include Appendix C of the Taylor and Burns report dated February 24, 25. I mean, that whole page, it gives a breakdown and then it lists a number that we can quote. That's the number we're asking for. I think that's what the intent was.
I think that's, yeah.
Okay.
I remember it being north of 22 million, but I could be-
Initially, yes.
yeah.
Page is that on, Matthew? I can't even, it's such a big report. I can't even find it either.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. So the big report, I don't know, it's about halfway through. It's not quite halfway through. But it looks like this.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know if you guys can see it, but
Yep.
I'm sorry, I'm not following along with my digital copy as well, but it's right after page 16 of 16 of the BLW engineers, which I think is after the first 70-something page thing. After all the schematic design, after the SGH report. So after the BLW engineers report, and then Appendix C. So Appendix C should be in the index of the booklet, right?
So do you have $21,967,598?
Yes, that's
Yeah.
what I'm looking at,
Much better than 22, so. I like it.
right? And then plus the 3 bid alts.
Yeah, so I think we should ask them the 21,967,598.
But you also have to be aware, and I thought we were gonna have this discussion about reviewing what the report was, because we haven't met since then. But you also need to look at the PM and C base cost estimate, which is Appendix D, which page 2 and 3 list the things that items not considered in this estimate. And they include hazardous material removal, painting of existing building exteriors, replacing exterior building roofing. So that doesn't include the new, well, town hall's already getting the new roof. So that doesn't include a new roof on the Ritter. And it doesn't include painting either building either. And it doesn't include removal of hazardous material, which will probably have to fully abate both buildings, I would assume.
Mhm.
Which I don't know how much, but they weren't included in the estimate. As well as the other things.
So I guess the question is, do you want to stick with the 20.3 blah, blah, blah type of number just for the sake of knowing that that's, closer by the time you add some of that?
Well, I wonder too, is all the increasers, the estimators, there's always those factors that they said, the unknown, they added those into it too. I don't know. This is not my field.
Yeah, I don't know either. Um,
I also don't see contingency in here. I mean, is that another word for soft costs? No, I don't think so.
No, that wouldn't be. I'm trying to see if the
I thought they had a pretty healthy contingency in there, but could be wrong.
It may have been in the previous estimates, right?
Yeah.
man, there's a lot of pages to this thing.
Maybe the contingency was in the total estimated construction cost of 18.3 million. Does that sound possible?
Could be.
Uh, ta, ta, ta. Yeah, I agree with you. I don't see contingency here. The only thing you have is the escalation allowance. You have an escalation allowance of 3%, but
For that contingency, it's not like any of us would be able to make I guess, a good guess on what it would cost. So I think we just have to be transparent that the 22 million or just short of would be for these things, but there is the additional cost of removing hazardous waste. I mean, it sounds like the roof's taken care of in one building, but I don't know what the plan is for the Ritter on the roof, if it would be affected, and it's better withholding the funds till the construction's being done as a whole to fix it. And it's not really an additional cost, but just an offset budget cost, I guess. But is there any way to get, I mean, did any of the other surveys for Ritter have, or town hall, like the last one, did it ever say how much it would cost, like tap A to remove all that, and we can put an accelerator on top of it to guess?
Yeah, so I think to Matt's point, we should go, we should go back. We should ask these questions to the architect.
I found it, actually, it's on page 4. It's main construction cost summary is the heading. And subtotal trade costs was 13 mil. And then they added design and estimating contingency of 15%. It's almost 2 million. So that concern is removed.
so that,
That's-
okay, so the contingency's there, but that it's obvious from right above that, it says hazardous material removal at existing building excluded.
Yeah, that can't be. We have to have at least have to have a placeholder for the thing.
honestly, I don't think that there's a lot in
I don't think there is either.
in the town hall and the Ritter, and I think that the $2 million would more than cover that. But it's just speculation at this point.
I think you're right. I think we remediated the entire high school for. I don't know.
Yeah, but remember that was several years ago, Greg, at this point.
Yeah, but it was like 500 grand. I mean, it wasn't.
Wasn't
I'm going from memory too. But
All right, so what's the number we want to use then? Or do we want to table this till we can get more information from the from the architect?
and by the way, if I could just add a little bit more, I think we should table it. I think we should get some input. We need a ballpark from somebody.
Well,
And by the way, we didn't have. Now that I'm remembering this, right after I said it about the high school, I do not think we had I think that the scope of work for the general contractor included an assessment of how much needed to be abated. So we did not have a firm number. I do not believe going into of what the of what the abatement cost was going to be, because we didn't know until they got into it exactly how much was there. So I believe that was treated with an allowance of some kind, and it would have dug into contingencies if we needed it, which I don't think we did in that case. But but I think we need to have we I don't think we can go in and say, yeah, we've excluded hazardous materials. I think we need to ask the architect. That's my opinion.
I agree.
And or their cost estimators.
all right.
They ought to be able to give us like we think it's on this rough order of magnitude, so that we can, at least put something in there.
If I may, I think we could probably ask our facilities director. He's been on the job for a while. He might have a good idea.
Yep, that too. So I don't know when we have to have this number closed by. When do we have to have this reported? Do we know?
I'm not sure when the warrant has to be final.
So I do have some information. So from Tom Lamb back on February 16th, 2021.
Mm,
Greg, per your request, the following is a quick ballpark estimate. Hazardous abatement for this is the TC Passios building, $750,000.
Right, but that was quite extensive, Brian, for
that was for
Pasco.
TCP.
For TCP, exactly. That's my point. It's a much larger building too.
Yeah.
50,000 square foot building.
Okay,
55,000.
so let's look at it this way. I'm gonna suggest that the chair reaches out to the facilities, Mr. Ruth, the facilities manager, and gets an idea of what kind of hazardous material might be in these buildings. And then we can go and ask the architects what they feel that the estimated cost would be for that.
I agree.
Right.
Also, we have a little bit of time. We don't need, the warrants don't go to the printer till early April, so, it's not like it's gonna be next week we have to get the final number, but obviously, the sooner we get that number and the sooner we start to be as transparent as we can, the better off we'll be at town meeting.
Absolutely.
So to add to that, we have one more meeting before the warrant closes, which is in March, I think the third week of March. So the printing is some wiggle room, depending on who you ask, you might get that leniency, but we should probably depend on being finalized by the close of the warrant, which I think is March 16th or 17th. I think it's a Friday, even though the selectmen meet on Tuesdays. But I'm not sure.
Yeah,
March
because-
17th is the close of the warrants. They have to be
Right.
received.
Monday.
Okay, because we do talk about having an additional meeting on March 17th. That's, part of the agenda. I don't know how you guys feel, at this point. It sounds like if we had a meeting on the 17th, would we be too late for the agenda, for the warrant at that point?
I think the select board would meet the next day to look them over. I think that's the purpose.
Right.
Yeah.
I agree.
Michael Ray Jeffries could probably help us out with that one.
Right. Okay, so, all right, so I think we have a game plan for that. We can't really do a final financial request until we understand the hazardous waste a little bit better and how that could be presented and how that it's affected by the budget. Okay, all right, so I'm gonna jump a little bit here. Since we discussed it, future meeting schedule. Do we have one plan? Is the 17th, sounds like we need to have one on the 17th to finalize all this stuff. Any issues?
Good.
All right, hearing none, I'll propose we do one on the 17th. And then let me jump to review and approve minutes. So I guess I'm gonna ask, did folks get a chance to read through Brian's minutes? Couple of typos, Brian, but other than that, they look good to me. But, I don't know if you care about that too much. I don't personally, but, just,
I'd make a motion to, what were the dates, Brian? Do you know?
February 4th and February 19th.
Yeah, I'd make a motion to approve the minutes from February 4th and 19th. As written.
Do I get a second?
One second.
Okay, excellent. All right, so I'll do a roll call vote. Let's go with Mr. Layton.
Aye.
All right, Mr. Roy,
Aye.
Mr. Allison,
Aye.
Mr. Gray,
Aye.
and Ms. Mercedes.
I'm gonna pass. I wasn't there on the 19th, but I to the 4th.
Okay, all right, I have to pass myself. So I'm gonna say that the minutes were passed by quorum vote.
Thank you.
All right, and then what we have on our agenda is discussion updates, boards, commissions, key stakeholders. Anything on this discussion update to boards, commissions, and key stakeholders? I think we've been trying to be transparent as possible. I think the representatives here have spoken to their respective boards, so I think we're okay there. I guess I'm gonna ask if there's any, I see a few folks from the public on here. Are there any questions from the public or any comments from the public that we didn't take on earlier? I don't see any. Please unmute or raise hand. No, excellent. Well, I definitely appreciate you guys have joined this meeting. As I said, the committee's trying to say as transparent as possible and also get as much opinion from the public to make this a winning project. A lot of work, a lot of time, a lot of effort has gone into this, so we look forward to hopefully getting a positive response from folks on this. So I'm gonna look for the next meeting on March 17th. Same time, 5:30. Anything that I forgot, guys, for tonight? All right. Well, can I get a motion?
Make a motion to adjourn at 6:48 PM.
All right. Anybody want a second?
I'll second it.
All right. We're gonna go through the other. We'll go through the. Christina, you okay with adjourning?
Right.
All right. Matt,
Aye.
Greg,
Aye.
Brian,
Aye.
Tom.
Aye.
And that's an aye for me. So guys, appreciate the time. Enjoy the rest of your Monday and we'll talk to you in a couple of weeks.
All right.
Thank you.
Well,
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.